How relevant is MBA?
The most difficult question. Uh, I really don't. I would think twice before hiring you people.
Russia started exploring their ground for mining, and around 50 or 60 feet beneath the ground, wherein they found a marble tomb which was around 8 or 9 feet long. The moment they opened the tomb, hello, guys, and welcome back to yet another episode of Pine Talks, where we inspire knowledge, guide values, and empower future. And our today's guest is none other than Dr. Ashish Kaul. Sir, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
And sir, for our audience, please tell us about yourself, about your experience, how your journey started, and what are you doing right now?
I still am trying to figure out what am I doing. It's been a journey of about 32 years. What has kept me going is the ability of not knowing anything and yet understanding that there is whatever you do in life will always be for the first time, and then educating yourself in remaining relevant to that field
Mm.
is, I think, what I have always done, and which has helped me traverse through diverse conglomerates across the world, right from telecom to IT to broadcasting to media, entertainment, news, real estate, infrastructure, chemicals, petrochemicals, automobiles, banking. The fact is that I believe that you cannot be a sectorial expert unless you are willing to learn, which is where I think, while a career is important, it
Mhm.
is also very, very important to stay relevant to that field and be educated, whether formally, informally. If you're not educated in that field, you
Mhm.
will never succeed. Which is where I've seen the problem in India, that most of the careers fail because they do not empower themselves first
Right.
to stay relevant to those. So, my journey is an ideal example of not knowing anything
Mhm.
and trying my best to stay relevant to all the employers and all the fields that I worked in.
That's exactly what the theme is of our podcast. That we are guiding students in choosing the right course. Because what we have realized is that the problem is not unemployment. The problem is students choose wrong course based on the herd mentality or based on peer pressure, which normally happens in India, and they end up in a wrong profession, which is not suited for them. Sometimes maybe based on their psychometric analysis or based on their behavior analysis, they are far more suited for a different role. So the reason why we invited you on this podcast is because, as you mentioned, you have experience in almost all the fields, and I ran out of check boxes when you were just mentioning the names. So, what do you think? What do you look for when you are working in a particular sector? So, what skills from each sector's perspective are relevant, and what students should seek when they are choosing a particular course?
I think you made a very valid point, Pratik. And the problem with India is not of unemployment as much as it is ignorance about choosing the right employment. And it starts quite early. For example, me, when I started my life, and the only thing that I ever wanted to do was to play cricket. I
Mhm.
haven't played cricket in the last 32 years, but I was very good at when I was playing. But there was, at that point of time, apart from the circumstances back in Kashmir, and then what the tragic events of 1990, where we had to leave our dreams and everything else there, and look for other careers. So I started from there, and today I'm not doing that. My biggest passion was something which I'm not pursuing. So, this is an ideal story of the Indian context, that we must admit
Mhm.
the fact that our education system and our careers are not aligned.
Right.
So, first and foremost, Indian student has to accept, Indian families, Indian parents have to accept
Mhm.
that what they actually think in their minds may be very different. And
Mhm.
therefore, it is, while it is tragic, it is a fact that your passion may not be a suitable career for you. In some other country, in some other context, maybe it can be so, because those are socialist countries.
Mhm.
Those are countries which have a very mm, uh, different kind of a social order,
Mhm.
where governments take care of you even if you're not working.
Mhm.
India is not like that. So, this trying to fit the square peg in the round hole or vice versa
Mhm.
cannot work in India, at least for a foreseeable future. So, first things first, I think parents need to understand that there has to be a difference between your passion and your career. And your career choices have to be based not on the things that are happening today.
Mhm.
We do not yet understand the concept of a career. To a traditional Indian family, a career is what is happening today. So,
Mhm.
if today a CA is in the vogue, everybody wants their children to be CAs.
Mhm.
If an engineering, if suddenly, it's so funny. Even a good film,
Mhm.
in a way, sends a message to the society or parents at large that what kind of a career should there be. Very recently, there was a very popular film where it showcased the strength of civil services. So
Mhm.
suddenly you will see every parent wants to make their children a civil
Right.
servant. Now, that is the problem with India. It should not be so. While it is great if you can pursue your passion,
Mhm.
but passions in an Indian context
Mhm.
are short. For example, a painter. Is there
Mhm.
anything wrong in being a painter? No. Is there anything wrong in being a singer? No. Is there anything wrong in being an actor? Absolutely not.
Mhm.
But if you come from a traditional Indian family, which has a median income of less than 30, 40,000 a month and struggling to even put a roof over your head, these careers are not going to help you live a mentally happy life.
Right.
It will be very short. Is there anything wrong in being a flight purser? Is
Mhm.
there anything wrong in being a flight attendant?
Mhm.
No. Is there anything wrong in being a receptionist? No. That is what your passion is. But then these are very temporary from an Indian context, the kind of country you live in. As long as you understand that, that is your start. So, first and foremost, you must know what is happening today. We live in a very different era. Internet, the way internet has become a part of our,
Right.
there is so much. While there is a lot of wisdom that needs to be applied to that, but then you can at least establish a trend where you are moving. So a career is not what is happening today or what will happen after 2 years. A career is what will happen once you would have attained that education.
Mhm.
So assuming this education that you would have attained will take 4 years, 4 to 5 years, and then another, let's say, 2 to 3 years of internship and the initial rigors of that career. So that career will actually unfold after 10 years.
Mhm.
So we are not ready to make those differentiations, which is where I feel educators, not just who the people who give you education, but people who interpret. Now, this is my expectation from a wonderful initiative that you have in Pine, that you will bridge that gap. Nobody is willing to bridge that gap.
Mhm.
I see in my life, I see people who are willing to sell a course, people who sell a college, people
Mhm.
who sell an institution. They never talk about a career.
Right. When you talk about selling a course, when you talk about selling an institution, the term course was earlier used by sailors. I mean, it's like they used to
Absolutely.
enter a destination on the map, then they used to use that compass,
Yeah.
and they used to design a path to reach that destination. And that translated in education as a path. I mean, the initial idea I feel was this is a course which will take you to this particular destination. And I used to talk about this when I used to counsel students when I was representing a university, that when you use Google Maps, you don't enter, you always enter the destination first, and then it shows you the shortest path to that particular destination. But nowadays, what is happening is students are choosing the path first and they don't know what the destination is. So, what do you think exactly happened that slowly in the course of history we lost the true meaning of the word course, and students are being sold a different kind of idea instead of dreams that they used to pursue? So, what exactly happened? What do
True,
you think?
very, very rightly put. This is something that differentiates a good, in a way. I mean, I would not hesitate in calling people like you as educators, because the whole system has become very indifferent to what it should have actually done. You're absolutely right. Today, people are choosing means first, which is where, if you see a reflection of unsatisfied careers, anybody can take a career. Today we live in a world where even internet offers you education.
Right.
But then, is that education meaningful? Because today, maybe what is happening is there is so much of stress in our day-to-day lives.
Mm-hmm.
People want to choose a shortcut, so they want to become successful in the shortest possible time. So when people, when sometimes when people talk to me, they they feel that, oh, I've achieved so much in life. And some people must be thinking, oh, he must be very lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I've been very lucky, and it's been taken me 32 years to be that lucky overnight. Nobody remembers the struggle. People see the end product. So if people, by any definition, if people see me as successful today,
Mm-hmm.
nobody understands that it has taken me 32 years to be successful overnight to be on the show today. It
Mm-hmm.
has taken me 32 years to get here.
Mm-hmm.
So people, parenting is also a gray area, and I've very recently, I've been at various forums where I've spoken about that India is a land of passionate parents.
Right.
We are not professional parents.
Mm-hmm.
It is very important for our parents also to understand that parenting is a matter of great responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
While it is obligatory for parents to shower love and tenderness on their children,
Mm-hmm.
but also be mindful of the fact that tomorrow, when you're not there, or when you're not in a position to be able to contribute
Mm-hmm.
to the well-being of your children are taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, it's very important to stay relevant. What kind of education? Ultimately, the route that you take, as you were rightly saying, the routes can be many.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, for example, a CA. Is there a shortcut to becoming a CA? No, there is no shortcut. Is there a shortcut in attaining the best technical education,
Mm-hmm.
an IIT, or any engineering discipline? Is there a shortcut?
Mm-hmm.
No, there is no shortcut. But there can be many efficient ways in which you can attain that education.
Right.
After you have attained that education, everything else is a shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
When you attain a degree from an meaningful institution, your
Mm-hmm.
whole life just breeze. It's just an is a pleasant drive all the way to the day that you decide to hang your boots.
Mm-hmm.
For example, a career in the army, once you're inside, but it's a struggle. Is there a shortcut to getting a career in the army?
Mm-hmm.
No. Nothing worth having comes easy.
Mm-hmm.
But that is a problem with the current generation. They want, first, they want ease of getting it.
Right.
So I think, which is where I think parents and people like you are very important to educate children that what is easy today
Mm-hmm.
will always be short. We are not
Right.
talking about lucky people. We're not
Mm-hmm.
talking about the likes of so many business legends who are around us. Unfortunately, we also give wrong examples.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we'd say, oh, look at this man, he's just a high school dropout. Look at that man, he struggled to do his college.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this person, he was never good at academics. Yes, we are living in a country surrounded by 1.32 billion people.
Mm-hmm.
It is wrong to go by such examples. First and foremost, if you want to have a good career, especially in India, where it is not a socially driven environment, where you have to struggle to put food on the table,
Mm-hmm.
where healthcare is critical, it is expensive. Everything that you do in India is expensive. You pay taxes on income, you pay taxes on your expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So you are the most taxed nation, if not the most, but amongst the most taxed nations in the whole world. So your whole life is going to be very, very invigorating
Mm-hmm.
from that sense. So it's very important to consider a career which will have a long term impact on your life.
Mhm.
Ease of getting there, I don't think it is a wise thing to do, because that will always be short.
Mhm.
You see the careers, for example, let's say the careers with airlines, for example. Do pilots have a very long life? No. But to be a pilot, it is the most difficult thing, but it's a very high paying job.
Yes.
So, there are those permutations and
Mhm.
combinations that while the career may be short, but in that short period of time, you make so much of money that you're
Mhm.
taken care of. Engineering, medicine, these are difficult careers, but they give you a lot of money so that you can choose your retirement. Today, I
Right.
think if the buzzword is that people want to retire early, but
Mhm.
then you have to work that much hard. And also remember that in today's time, education also is only the first step,
Mhm.
because when you get into a job, everything keeps changing. You need to keep, there is no escaping education.
Mhm.
This very concept, people like you, I think, are entrusted with the responsibility to educate children,
Mhm.
that any education is a step towards success.
Mhm.
Another education brings you closer to higher success, and this journey must never stop.
Thank you so much, sir, for such detailed explanation. Now, when we talk about institutions, when you just mentioned that if you get a degree from a very good institution, you get a good job. So I would like to share something that I have seen in during when I was working for an organization. So I used to sit around managers, and there was one manager who completed his MBA from XLRI. There was one who completed from JBIMS. We had one from IIM Kolkata. We had one from IIM Kozhikode, if I'm saying
Yeah.
it right. And when we talk about these kind of people, it also makes me think about movies like Three Idiots, wherein we have two types of people. One is Chatur Ramalingam, who is always focused on education, and one is Ranchhod Das Chachar, who was the main character of the movie, and he only wanted to pursue knowledge, despite of that moving breaking all the records at that time. Why do you think people are still not able to accept that idea in their personal life or in their career pursuit? When it comes to gaining knowledge is more important than gaining a degree. So this is something which I have seen in that movie. So what do you think, what is stopping people? Because they can spend money. They have paid over 300 crores to the producers of the movie by watching that movie at least three times. And I'm sure every time that movie is on TV,
Many
we
times over.
cannot change the channel. And our hand will not even move to the remote. So despite of watching that movie so many times, why are people still not accepting that concept? That knowledge comes first and degree comes second. What do you think?
See, it is chicken and the egg story.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, I think what people fail to learn from that movie is that the movie was made by a person who really struggled very hard in his life to make that movie. So it is not about the characters,
Mm-hmm.
it is about the craft
Mm-hmm.
of a good film. So the good film is what draws you to that film, not what the characters do. That's a byproduct. Second is, it's very important, while, as I was saying earlier, see what kind of a country do you live in.
Mm-hmm.
This concept of putting, and this is a very selfish sort of a response that I'm giving, because that is how the situation is today, and this is how the situation will remain for a foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm.
If you were in, let's say, okay, I'll give you an example of our neighbors, let's say the Middle East, let's say United Arab Emirates. Those people are filthy rich. They don't have any education at all.
Right.
Neither, and pardon me for saying so, are they intellectually simulating guys,
Mm-hmm.
but they are flooded with money. Why? Because the state takes care of their expenses.
Mm-hmm.
State gives them, if I remember correctly, when I used to be the business head for a large brand out of Middle East, they used to get about 5,000 rupees, 5,000 dirhams per soul in the family,
Mm-hmm.
assuming that they have large families. So let's say about 5 6 families. So they would have about 60 70,000 dirhams a month, which is
Wow.
being paid by the state. Housing is paid by the state.
Mm-hmm.
Healthcare is taken care of by the state.
Mm-hmm.
Telecom is taken care of by the state. There is no expense apart from the food that you eat.
Mm-hmm.
Banking is free for them, which means that in those parts of the world,
Mm-hmm.
it's mostly payable when able. interest is minimal, and even they get waivers for interest and they get waivers for the loans. So practically, you have a society right next door, which is, if nothing, saving over a crore per annum,
Mhm.
even if they go bonkers in their expenses
Right.
without doing anything, without attaining education, without making any efforts because the state is paying for them.
Mhm.
Can that be an example in India? No,
No.
absolutely not. But it's good to be inspired by them. See
Mhm.
the kind of system that they have. But they have a handful of people to take care of. When you have nearly, a 1.5 billion people, one fifth of the population in far more than that is
Mhm.
here in India, is that practical? Getting inspired by something is one thing,
Mhm.
the practicality of it is totally different. So here in India, while it sounds good to be informed, it sounds good to pursue knowledge, but then ultimately, if you come from a family which needs you to put food on the table at some point of time,
Mhm.
to take care of the family at some point of time, only knowledge is not going to get you that there.
Mhm.
For example, if I, with all my knowledge, if I did not have the credentials that I have, would I be here today? No, I would not
Right.
be here today, because knowledgeable people perhaps are selling peanuts outside this office. They're
Mhm.
also very knowledgeable people. So, knowledge in a country, unfortunately, like ours, does not guarantee that you will be able to put food on the table. So, it's very harsh, but the fact of life. Which is why, sadly, I see so many students, they have their passion somewhere, and maybe parents also feel helpless that the child wants to do this, and we feel we are allowing him. But in long term, maybe after you're past that age, you see, in India, there's also another problem. You have age restriction.
Right.
Beyond a certain age, you will not be able to get education. Beyond a certain age, you will not get employment. So,
Mhm.
what is the point in you attaining that spark of life after you are past that barrier?
Mhm.
So, even if you become wise, unfortunately, after 32, that's not going to land you a job. That, unfortunately, we have to accept with a pinch of salt, is the current circumstances
Mhm.
of our country. And for a very foreseeable future, it is going to remain like. Whether you like it or not, please, my request to all the students and parents is to differentiate between the two.
Mhm.
Knowledge, attaining knowledge is an endless. I attained my degrees quite late in life.
Mhm.
And honestly, I 90% I had already attained by the way of my earned experience
Mhm.
on the job. I did not actually need those degrees.
Mhm.
I realized, but in a realistic environment, when I am going for a new job or for a promotion, that is unfortunately the system. They
Mhm.
compare degrees.
Right.
For your own career advancement, you need those objects of
Mhm.
degrees.
Mhm.
It's very important. It serves a purpose. And
Right.
yes, 10%, I always say this to people who have a lot of earned experience, they become myopic.
Mhm.
It's wrong. I can say that I have a combination of actual in course full time degrees, part time degrees, and online degrees.
Mhm.
I know, take it from me, in my 32 years, I know the value of each, and I cannot recommend the easiest degree as being a means to any success.
Mhm.
They all have their own reasons of existence, but they are all very, very focused. So therefore, today I feel that there is a certain degree that I attained. I'm very happy that I made that effort, because it changed my perspective.
Mhm.
It has helped me stay focused, it has helped me do better. And if I believe for a while that I was born with a certain capability, it has helped me deliver better results.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I may not be as efficient as
Right.
I otherwise would have been. So, to be full of talent is one thing, and to make best use of that talent is entirely different.
Mhm.
We have, for example, Anil Kumble was there. Then you have Tendulkar, who was there. Tendulkar's that buddy, I'm forgetting his name.
Rahul Dravid,
No, no,
Saurav Ganguly,
no. Tendulkar's batchmate,
Kamli,
Kamble, Vinod
Vinod
Kamble.
Kamli.
Perhaps some would say technically Vinod Kamble was more capable, but where is
Mhm.
Vinod? So, there are these permutations, harsh but true. But the point is, differentiate between knowledge, which is an endless process. You can keep improving on knowledge. Education in India,
Mhm.
remain focused. It's a way to get a steady income. Knowledge alone cannot get you steady income. And also learn to differentiate between exceptions.
Mhm. Sir, I'm speechless. Frankly, the kind of explanation you have provided, you have completely changed the whole concept in my mind. Because I was always thinking that students pursue degree, and somewhere in getting degree, I mean, we as human beings across the world have lost the concept of education, wherein we are getting knowledge or information that can be translated into knowledge, so that we can complete certain tasks or we can achieve our dreams. But this was just perfect.
I'll give you one more example.
Mm-hmm.
Quite early in my life, I mean, because I was the kind of background that I came from, I had to cut short my education quite early, and I needed to work to support my family because we were struggling to put even food on the table. I came from a family where we were abundantly taken care of, and then I remember that we used to get 250 milliliters of milk that
Mm-hmm.
my mother would stretch for 2.5 3 days by keeping adding water to that milk. My father was unable to buy a pair of shoes for nearly 5 6 years, and he would just use the same trouser and the same shirt for almost 5 6 years. Those were the circumstances that I've seen. And as I said, the only thing I wanted to do was to play cricket. And perhaps if I had remained in Kashmir, I would have become a cricketer, or as good as Tendulkar. Perhaps is a matter of debate, but I'm sure I would have been somewhere very closer to the likes of these legendary people. It was not something that had happened. I used to work very, very hard. Every day I have slogged till the time I used to play cricket. I have every single day of my life, I've spent 7 to 8 hours, sweating it out in the fields. And for me,
Mm-hmm.
then to be so confident in saying that I was very good, but there was that struggle. It was not that I was suddenly blessed by the gods that you become good at whatever I was. And eventually, I always remained passionate about education as a lesson that I learned. When you were talking about knowledge, and when I started working, I realized I was far better than so many people around me.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was no opportunity coming. Whenever it would be that moment for people, for the decision makers to put pen to paper,
Mm-hmm.
it would not be in my favor
Mm-hmm.
because they would choose somebody who had better credentials,
Right.
not better knowledge.
Right.
So I realized that. To cut the long story short, I eventually got to a stage where quite early in my life, I have been a visiting faculty or a guest faculty at some of the illustrious institutions in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the names that people globally swear by.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the level of colleges where I have had the honor and the privilege of teaching the final year students
Mm-hmm.
who are today the highest paying students anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And when I met those students, and especially during my first interactions, I said, what is this? They were so mediocre, and they had no clue of how the life was outside of that institution. I was really taken aback by the mediocrity of the talent that is there in the finest of the educational institutions in this part of the world. They were so outdated. If nothing, they were outdated by 20 years. Some of the basic case studies that has revolutionized the world, they had not even known of them.
Right.
To me, it was shameful that are these, and I said that, I remember what I said. I
Mm-hmm.
told them, I said, if I were at some point of time be flushed with money and have a industry of my own, I would think twice before hiring you people. I would rather spend my money efforts in hiring simple graduates and educating them than hiring people like you. You guys are so lucky that you have cracked an exam, become blue eyed boys of some institutions, and no wonder I know why the likes of ISKCON and such religious institutions are flooded by the likes of you.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you go to an ISKCON, you know a majority of people who are there come from certain illustrious educational backgrounds. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because they do not understand, they're not relevant. So the whole idea is, while an education, remember, education in a country like ours, I always emphasize this: country like ours,
Mm-hmm.
you can change everything, you can't change that.
Right.
And you must also, wisdom demands you to stay truthful of your current circumstance. The current circumstance is that we are the most populous nation in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Our country, most of our resources are drained. Our country, what it can be, can our country not be a socialist regime? It can be, but then there are so many mouths to be fed.
Right.
There is so much of effort that the government has to do, because we have so many souls who may not be contributing economically, but their mouths to be fed. You can't abandon them.
Mhm.
And that puts a drain on your dreams as well. So, to go back to where we started, remember that getting wisdom is one thing, putting food on the table is entirely another. Never compromise on your education. And always remember that quality education is irreplaceable.
Mhm.
It may be difficult to attain, it is worth spending. Sometimes people say, this education takes 4 years, medical in India takes anywhere between 5 to 10 years. Please remember one thing: it is not those 50 months. Life happens after those 50 months.
Mhm.
And assuming that you have to work for 40 years, what will happen to you in those 40 years is a derivative of these efforts that you make in these 50 months. People don't come with that patience. They want things to happen overnight. Unfortunately, we have examples like Three Idiots, fabulous film. I think we must also, my expectation is that educators must also impart this knowledge that there is a successful film and there are successful people, but somewhere else, that could be a Felix, that could be a beacon.
Mhm.
But it should not be that you follow this into a tunnel and then you fail to differentiate between the light that is of an incoming train
And the
or,
exit.
or a
Yes.
glorious exit.
Coming to how relevant is MBA as a course in 2024 or in next 5 years, and how did it become the most selling course, and still students or employees, people who complete MBA holders are not able to make the most out of it.
Fantastic question. I think the most difficult question, and I think this the answer to this question is the core of employment. You see, ultimately, what happens, no matter any professional study, leads you to a certain executive function. Ultimately, there is a product at the end of it. When you talk about private service, so to say, apart from government services are not about creating a product, it's about service. It's
Mhm.
about utilities more. Your electricity, your water, your food, those are different game. But when you talk about consumer space, which is where mostly the private companies come in, so it is mostly like the aerated waters and the
Mhm.
biscuits and the basically the things that you really don't need, you buy them.
Mhm.
So I believe that there is a product and there is marketing.
Right.
Everything else in between is an expense.
Mhm.
The creation of the product in itself is just an expense.
Mhm.
Now, what I'm trying to say is that there is creation of a product. But when you create a product, what does it do? Nothing.
Mhm.
You always had a choice of eating the roti made by your mother. Why did you choose a pizza or a biscuit?
Mhm.
Somebody told you, right? Today you prefer biscuits over your homegrown bakeries or your homegrown foods. You prefer processed foods. Is it mandatory? No. Electricity is mandatory.
Mhm.
Water is mandatory. Food grains is mandatory.
Mhm.
Roof over your head is mandatory. Education is mandatory. Everything else is you being told it is good for you, or
Mhm.
in a way it is important for you. Which is why these fields, an MBA, so to say,
Mhm.
that is the function. This is the knowledge of converting an item or a product
Mhm.
and making it sellable at a premium, and selling it to people who otherwise would not need it.
Mhm.
Which doesn't mean that you necessarily have to own the manufacturing of that. Some of the largest giants in the world do not manufacture the things that they sell.
Right.
They're manufactured by various entities.
Mhm.
They just put in a label.
Right.
They just put in a label that this is, and if you see some of the largest brands in the world,
Mhm.
they will say it is marketed by XYZ.
Mhm.
It may be manufactured by somebody else. So you it is the consumer facing business. And when you talk about a country like India or most of the Asian countries, we are the largest consumer market in the world. Half the world put together, and India on one side, India is still a bigger consumer market, right?
Right.
So you need people to ensure that this consumption can happen. That I can tell you that this biscuit is good for you because it comes with a set of vitamins, minerals, etc., etc., which it does not. Which it does not. Incidentally, it does not. I am the guy who tells you to drink this juice because it comes from a fruit, which it does not.
Right.
I keep on telling you to use this oil, it has almond, which it does not. Okay. So, which is why these careers have become important because they ensure profitability, they ensure consumption. Any business in the world that does not have consumption cannot succeed. It has to be state owned.
Right.
Like an electricity. Whether you consume or not, you have to pay. You need electricity. It is branded, unbranded. The concept does not exist. Right? Home, branded, unbranded, does not exist apart from, we're not talking about the gated societies and all of that. But a home is a home, right? Electricity is electricity, branded or unbranded. But a biscuit, you consume, but you differentiate between the biscuits because of the brand. So, which is why these careers actually happened. They ensure consumption. So, if you see 40 years back, this was not the case. You had referral. 40 years back, business consumption would happen because of referrals. Your elders would tell you this is good for you, eat it. Your teachers would tell you this is good for you. Your the cousins in the family, the elders, your relatives, your friends, this is how the referrals would come. They would say this is good for you. The good old stories of the remedies in the kitchen. So they were passed on, and that was based on experience. So an elder telling you who is in his 60s, in his 50s, in his 80s, this is good, and you blindly would follow. Today, you just need a TV commercial to tell you that. Right. So we have come a long way in amplifying consumption. So anybody who ensures consumption is the guy who puts money on the table for those companies. And these are the people who learn this through an MBA. So today an MBA is more educating you in the art of selling products. Creation is left to the engineers. Right. Engineers create homes, engineers create products which are just products. Like, for example, if you remove the label from the highest selling mobile phone and put it on somebody else, because all mobile phones actually look the same, right? If you see those the fancy mobile phones, if you don't know what it is, you'll probably it can be a Samsung, it can be an Apple, it can be an Oppo, it can be a OnePlus, anything. It is just the label that differentiates. So products in itself has become something which is become secondary. Primary is how you sell that. In all probability, my experience says that even the manufacturing cost of these products, let's say for example mobile phones, the cost of the manufacturing remains more or less the same. It is only the cost of the processor, the kind of investment that you will make will determine the long term usability of that particular product. That remains the same. Why does an Apple become the most expensive phone, and why does followed by the likes of Samsung and XYZ and so on, when it is the same product? It's the same product. So that's where the profitability. So if you made a product at, let's say, $1 and you're selling it at $2, you're okay. If you're making a product at $1, selling it at 10, you are the largest company in the world. Who makes this is an MBA, is the people who sell. They use different kinds of marketing utilities to create that supply, consumption and perception. So they say today that for example, a Rolex, they say we don't sell watches, we sell status. So who are these people? These are the people who traditionally learn the craft of selling, and therefore they are important. But today this has become a very basic knowledge, and they are as good as the experience that they carry. Which is where you see, if you study, what is it that they study? Is there any formula? No. If you examine the syllabus, the course curriculums, they're very insignificant, they're very ordinary. They teach you budgeting, they teach you procurement, they teach you manufacturing, they teach you accounting. I mean, it's a basic graduation course. What makes an MBA different? It is the experiences, the business experience. let's say the scenario plotting
Mhm.
and how to resolve scenario plotting.
Right.
Now, this, while easier as it may sound, determines the quality of education.
Mhm.
And it so seems that some of the top line educational institutions have some of the top line experiences in scenario plotting.
Mhm.
That makes you a better guy. So, in even in education, so this differentiation, while they all teach the same thing, so but why would you put a 50 lakh figure to an IIM guy entry
Mhm.
at an entry point, and somebody else will struggle to even get an employment? Why? When the studies are same. Have
Mhm.
you ever come across an institution who offers substandard education? No, it is the same course curriculum. It's the
They all
same
say
syllabus.
that we are the best.
They all say we are the
Mhm.
best. Then what determines the intake?
The art of selling.
The art of selling. So,
Yes.
which is why the art of selling is driving the future. It
Mhm.
is how you create those scenarios. You may see this very differently in Europe.
Mhm.
You may see this differently in some of the other countries where the art of selling is not as important as the core of the product.
Mhm.
So it's very important also to differentiate between colleges, which is where, when we were having this conversation earlier, it's very important that students, and they need this guidance.
Mhm.
Most of the students go wrong because they say, Acha, we want to study at that college because we have heard it is good.
Right.
That college may be good for something, may not be good for you.
Right.
Who is going to bridge that gap?
Mhm.
Because ultimately the kind of people that I see, the so-called educators that I see, they're more interested in selling a seat.
Mhm.
They're more interested in selling a student as a commodity to a college
Mhm.
and creating that fitment. But ultimately I see, my inboxes are full of people who have fancy degrees but they're
Mhm.
not relevant. Who is to be blamed? The educator, the parents, or the student in itself?
True. So this reminds me of an instance. Right now, I'm consulting a student who has completed her postgraduate, her PhD in sociology, and her topic was discrimination with doctors, caste discrimination with doctors in Punjab, and she was planning to pursue postdoctorate in US. And she just sent me a university that these people are open for application. And my perspective was to identify what the future holds for her in further researching on this topic and which universities specifically have these relevant topics that they have worked on, or they have the professors who have already done certain research. So I encouraged her to get more information on these kind of discriminations in India, find a solution, and find a kind of parallel study about this when it happens in US, because the idea in India is casteism. The same concept in US is racism, because US doesn't have caste, they have races. So the reason why I'm telling you this is because despite of being a PhD holder, I feel that a lot of students now lack the research skills, because earlier we used to go to libraries and we remember how difficult it was to find a particular book. Now, because we have easy access to information on the internet, do you think because we have readily available access, students are not utilizing it to the best?
Brilliantly. I'm very happy that I have the privilege of talking to you. Very few people, while it is okay to answer, but it's very important. My answer can only be as good as the question. It's very important to have the right question. I'll give you my own example. Whatever education that I attained
Mhm.
was towards fulfillment of something. After working for so many years now, any university would have given me, probably I can seek a favor.
Mhm.
But there were instances where I was pursuing something that was important,
Mhm.
and I was always tempted that, if I have this degree, it'll make my life easier.
Right.
There were always those choices.
Mhm.
And then I realized that if I do that, if I exchange a favor,
Mhm.
will it really help me do what I wanted to do? Or will it also be one of those cosmetic things?
Mhm.
And I figured that, whatever decisions I took the harder way
Mhm.
helped my product eventually. So when I did the kind of research project, because I was quite interested in research always.
Mhm.
And before I there's one important thing that I take a step back. Most of these research oriented educations,
Mhm.
they don't make you a sectorial expert. There is a severe gap there. People are highly misinformed.
So I'm sorry to interrupt because my question was not limited to people who are doing research, but in general, the idea of the question was people who are doing research are lacking research
No,
skills.
I'll come to that.
So normal
I'll come
students,
to that. I'll
yes.
come to that. So, this I have seen in my whole life,
Mm-hmm.
that people think by doing, let's say, by doing a PhD, they think that they have become sectorial experts. No, I see people who are highly ignorant despite having a PhD in
Right.
their own field. A PhD or any other education does not actually make you a sectorial expert. It makes you a good student
Mm-hmm.
in understanding what all you must know,
Mm-hmm.
and then knowing how to get the things that are very important towards the product delivery.
Right.
So what I'm trying to say is that, suppose if you want to learn how to do research, and research that you can take to the bank,
Mm-hmm.
is where a PhD is important. But doing PhD in a certain field does not make you actually. The role of this whole educational platform, which we call a PhD or such
Mm-hmm.
things, is to make you good at research,
Right.
is so that your mind opens. And trust me, before and after, I'm telling you, I'm an ideal example. I would need maybe 6 pages to write something today. I can do that in 6 lines. That is what a good quality education does to you.
Right.
You first and foremost start asking questions, and then you start getting those answers. And then when you get those answers to the other question that you had, is the first and the foremost important step is to find the right blocks which existed as books earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be a nightmare finding the right book
Right.
in the first place. Today all you have to do is do google.com.
Mm-hmm.
But why is it that while it has made life easier, has the quality gone up? No, quality
No.
perhaps would have gone down. Is because you do not know the authenticity of what is being thrown at you.
Mm-hmm.
A book in a library had to go through multiple checks and balances for it to find a place in the library.
Right.
Agree?
Right.
Any crap, any humbug finds its way onto internet.
Mm-hmm.
Who is monitoring that? Nothing.
True.
But when you pick up a book from a library, you can bet your life on it.
Mm-hmm.
Right before the librarian, so many checks and balances, so much of hard work would have gone in allowing that book to be in that library in the first place.
Right.
But in google.com, any idiot can write anything, and it can show up in your research, and you can use it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think then, to come to the other question was, yes, there are fields that have opened up, and it's very important for you to always link this question, that if you want to do this at a certain university, your father may have enough money for you to burn in a certain university. That is all right,
Mm-hmm.
but that cannot be an example for anybody else to follow. You must find a fitment, and you very importantly, raise this, and nobody does that. My expectation from you is exactly that. I believe you will do that, and I know you are doing that, and you must never abandon that, because it is, most of the students go wrong because they assume things.
Right.
It's very important that if you want to do this from a certain university, who is there a friend, a mentor who tells you that no, it so seems, but that this is not correct, you should go here because this
Mm-hmm.
serves you better.
Right.
Those friends, mentors do not exist, and that is what my expectation from you is. I know, because I'll hold you by the collar if you don't do that. And those are the people that can make a lot of difference to the kind of students that will come out. And when you say a student, a student is the future.
Mm-hmm.
What people don't understand, most of the people who masquerade as educators,
Mm-hmm.
glorified salesmen trying to sell a seat, they don't realize that this is the future. Every student that you find a right fitment
Mm-hmm.
is a right check that you write for this country,
Mm-hmm.
and that will be taken to the bank, and that student can make this country better. I think that is the approach that is needed, which is
Mm-hmm.
missing.
Thank you so much, sir, for that answer. This brings me to another question. A few days back, I was watching a video and it uncovered something which I saw for the first time. So, apparently, in 1967 or 1969, Russia started exploring their ground for mining, and around 50 or 60 feet beneath the ground, they found a cave wherein they found a kind of tomb, a marble tomb, which was around 8 or 9 feet long. The moment they opened the tomb, there was a lady lying inside, completely intact skin, as if she was just 30, 32 years old. And she was lying in pink liquid. Now these people got scared because this was almost 70 or 80 feet beneath the ground. They thought of calling the military, and Russian military at that time was quite active, and all of everyone was trying to look for something which was not explainable in a way. They tried to open it and they lost the liquid. The moment the liquid was gone, the body decomposed in seconds. At that time, we didn't have the means to check how old the body was, but the remains were kept. And in the early 2000, when we understood how carbon dating used to work, they did that and they figured out that that body was 800 million years old. So this question is again related to education, but in a way that how did we lose certain technology or certain knowledge which was so many years old? Why was it either not passed on to us, or why are we not able to figure it out yet, despite of saying that we are the most advanced civilization ever to live? And we are able to design something called as artificial intelligence, but what about natural intelligence which used to exist in past?
Oh, this is deep. No, this is deep in a way that, our whole education system. You
Mhm.
see, today we keep on talking about, you will see there is always a rhetoric about, India being the Vishwa Guru, and rightly so.
Mhm.
And, there is always this gap that you will see that if you see our heritage, our history, our legacy, it is no way reflective of our current status.
Mhm.
Why? If we say and if we believe that we are intellectually far superior, incomparable to
Mhm.
anything else in the world, then
Mhm.
why is it not so reflective of anything that we do today? Top scientists in the world, where is India? Forget about APG, etc., etc.
Right.
Generally,
Right.
nowhere. Is there anything that is reflective of our legacy? No.
Mhm.
Why? The reason is the language that you and I are using to talk today.
Mhm.
You see, when Britishers came, what happened? The biggest contribution to by the Britishers to the whole world was conversion of our knowledge into English.
Right.
And what happened was, along the way, when that knowledge was translated into English, it went to other countries.
Mhm.
And in other countries, there were scientists who used that knowledge under their name,
Mhm.
and then it was the same knowledge that has come back to us.
Mhm.
So it is, if we believe, for
Mhm.
example, that something has some iota of wisdom which has an English name,
Mhm.
the probability of that having originated in India, traveled overseas, hijacked by somebody else,
Mhm.
written, rewritten in English, and having being sent to other parts of the world is as high as 99.9%.
Mhm.
Right from the first battery in the world to the first surgical experiments to the first levels of treatments to antibiotics to grafting to skin to amputations to transplants, there is a thousand year old documented history in India. But
Yes.
why is it that even your numbers, which are creations of India, called Arabic numbers?
Mhm.
Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
The numbers that they're called as Arabic numbers.
Mhm.
Why? Zero. It is what has Arab, which is the most illiterate nation on the face of this planet,
Mhm.
got to do with numbers?
Mhm.
Again, you see, contextually, we have all gotten it wrong because of the contribution, the gravest contribution, the deadliest onslaught
Mhm.
that actually Britishers should be held responsible was the cultural, the intellectual and cultural theft. It was not diamonds and the golds and the cottons and all of that.
Mhm.
Everything else can be recreated.
Mhm.
The problem was our knowledge was hijacked, was stolen from here, and today it is these white collared people wearing fancy pants and shirts and suits and ties who tell the world they're intellectually more superior to anything,
Mhm.
when they cannot even tell me which European country had any legacy 300 years back, 400 years back. What did they know?
True.
They did not even know how to wear clothes.
Mhm.
But today, when it comes to teaching the whole world ethics, knowledge, wisdom, why do we refer to them?
Mhm.
when there is no documented history where they can even prove anything.
Mhm.
But why is it that they know everything? It was India that taught the world about the solar system.
Right.
But whose books do you read? Is there any Indian whose knowledge is being taught to students? But why is it that when these guys, the first peep that they had into the universe was through a telescope which was just a few hundred years old, thousands of years back, we had all the wisdom of what was happening and
Mhm.
multiple solar systems, multiple suns. Today, the world is acknowledging that there are how many? 2 dozen suns out there? But
Mhm.
we knew this millions of years ago.
Right.
How does a Britisher or how does a European, how does a Westerner know all this?
Mhm.
Impossible. They did not even know how to eat food and they did not even know how to wear clothes. So they knew this. It is incomprehensible. They stole this knowledge from us and then it was repackaged. Today,
Mhm.
for example, we are sitting in Delhi. You know, one of the some of the largest brands in the world are made in a colony in New Delhi,
Right.
and then from here they're taken back where it costs 500 rupees. When you and I go back to the mall and buy them, we buy them for 3,000 bucks.
Mhm.
That is what has happened with our intellect, with our knowledge, with our wisdom.
True.
And the sad part is still not that. The sad part is you and I, generation before us, our generation and generations after us,
Mhm.
continue to believe that if there is civilization, it is outside of India.
Mhm.
That is the source of biggest worry. That is what needs to be corrected.
True. And so this brings me to the next question, of course. Again, related to this, education has always been an experimental venture, right from the beginning. This is what I personally feel. So we tried something, it worked. It's an education. It's a knowledge that if we throw seeds on the ground and if it's raining, it will convert into a plant. I mean, this is what I understand. And now, when I look at the education system, from till 10th standard till secondary school that we call in India, we study all the subjects. And what I understand, the basic idea is that gives you the basic idea of life. If you're buying oil, if you're buying, something, if you're buying a house, you can, calculate the length of the house. You can use basic trigonometry. And when it comes to science, why is insulin important? What is diabetes? What happens in my pancreas? How does heart work? Basic knowledge. After that, it has been narrowed down to just three verticals: arts, commerce, or science. So, do you feel that these three verticals are enough? And is that one of the reasons why we are not being innovative, or why we are not able to find new ways, or innovate further? Because I feel that we are quite limited now when it comes to learning and education. What do you think?
Couldn't be a more important question among other important questions.
So you said that you don't want questions, and I was okay with that.
You see, it is such an important thing that you mentioned. We are so ignorant about
Mhm.
this whole system of education. And you rightly pointed out that how narrow we have become in arts, commerce, and
Mhm.
XYZ and all of that. All we need to do is become primitive and become traditional in what we stood for.
Mhm.
And that is the biggest modernization the world will ever know. What I'm trying to say is that if we go back in time,
Right.
we will the more we travel back in time, the more advanced
Mhm.
and the more futuristic we will become for the whole world, not just for India.
Mhm.
Do you know this is all the doing of Britishers? Because they could not understand, their comprehension of India and their existence in India was very, very tactical.
Mhm.
Education is not tactical. Education and tactics is different. Tactics is an outcome of education, but education in itself is not tactics.
Mhm.
You see, what was the traditional what were the traditional streams that an average Indian student would study
Where, sir?
anywhere in any of the gurukuls? I mean,
In
they were the
Gurukuls, I
62 or
yes.
64. Today we are struggling to go beyond 3.
Mhm.
There were 62 or 64, I think it was 64 forms of education that were very, very common in India.
And I feel everyone had to go through all of them.
Everyone, yes.
I mean, to
In
certain
in a
level,
way, yes.
yes.
Which is where, how was our life divided? It was
Mhm.
divided in 4 parts. So one important part was when you were born, and the other important part was when you would attain an education, and which is where
Mm-hmm.
you had to go and study in a gurukul.
Right.
And for years you would study there, and then you would come back and play an active role in the society,
Mm-hmm.
and then you would again go back and play an active role in the intellectual world, which was considered to be a vanprast, and you go, you
Mm-hmm.
live. Vanprast doesn't mean that you are abandoned. It
Mm-hmm.
is then again your quest of higher knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? That was the vanprast. But then the education in Gurukul was spread over these 62, 64 different streams of education.
Right.
And it was important for you to know all and master perhaps a few, or
Mm-hmm.
Bhagwan Krishna, his life is an ideal example, and it is
Mm-hmm.
well documented. His school, do Indians know that his school still exists?
Yes.
Is the oldest gurukul in the whole universe, which taught Bhagwan Krishna. All the 64 Guru Sandipani's ashram is still in existence, where Krishna and all the Pandavas and all of them, they studied. And 64, and Krishna was considered to be the best student ever, because he had spent, I think, 62 days in a single day. He was so good that he took just one day to attain one knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
That is not important. The importance is that nearly 5,000 years ago, or maybe more, India had a deep rooted tradition of knowing what nobody else in the world know. And
Right.
imagine today you and I are using state of the art technology, and
Mm-hmm.
yet we are struggling to differentiate more than three streams of education. Have we become futuristic, or have we become retards? So if an Indian decides collectively
Mm-hmm.
to go back in time, he will become more futuristic. He
Mm-hmm.
will become more evolved. He will become more involved. And he will understand the true meaning of education and differentiate that, yes, there is a basic level of education, which is about knowing about your environment, knowing about what is happening in your body,
Mm-hmm.
knowing about the relationship. What was that basic education? It was the education to first know who you are, know your space in your society,
Mm-hmm.
know the symbiotic relationship between the society, yourself, and what is deep inside you.
Right.
So all of that does exist. It is just that we blindly follow men in trousers and shirts, and sometimes they're found wearing fancy jackets
Mm-hmm.
and ties, and we like to believe that they know everything all. No, they failed for 200 years to hijack everything that we stood for, and they rehashed it, and today they're the best salesmen. To
Mm-hmm.
answer your question that why is MBA important? So it is basically the people who speak English, they stole everything from India, and today they're reselling everything to the whole world, and then telling that the world is better than India.
No, true, sir. True. And I totally agree with this that, far past in the past, India had a very rich heritage when it comes to education, when it comes to knowledge. And now we are narrowing it down to certain points. So,
Sorry, if I may just add one more thing. You mentioned about certain diseases also,
mhm,
and India has a very documented, deep-rooted tradition of medicine.
mhm,
See, now it is the problem is how do we interpret it, because it is not written in English. So you think a crocine is better. What is crocine? What
mhm,
is any medication?
mhm.
It comprises of certain elements. Where do the elements come from? Where do they come
From the
from? Here,
nature.
this
Yeah.
earth only. So it is the choice between getting a lab grown chemical, or a chemical that is extracted from somewhere,
Mhm,
and a chemical or a herb that is perhaps extracted from this plant.
mhm,
That is the first thing. It is because the sad part of this country is we are following medical practices of America.
mhm.
Are you aware that India does not have it, despite being the largest country in the world, the fastest growing economy in the world, does not have its own medical practices? We follow the practices of American Medical Association, and which is where we are becoming mental hostages. We are no better than slaves of the everything that comes from outside, is because they control our mindset so much. Today
Mhm,
a doctor, the sad part is a doctor will know that this medication is not required, but
mhm,
his ethics do not permit him to say that please go back to your grandmother's treatment,
mhm.
because he is obliged to the studies that he has done. Okay,
Right.
now I'm an ideal example. I am a highly diabetic person. Last 2 years I am clinically non-diabetic. No doctor in the world will do that,
Mhm,
because they tell you, they give you medication to control your to fabricate your readings, but not the root cause.
Mhm.
But I found the ways and means in my own medication to dramatically control the disease that I had.
Right.
And it is all documented there. It is just that it has become fancier because there are these people who attain a certain education, all the symptoms, everything is just there.
Mhm.
But the way our own governments, our own culture looks at it through an English lens, and therefore we find them inferior.
True. So, what do you propose is a solution to this ignorance?
See, the solution is pretty simple. When I say it is simple, it is multifaceted. Solution is required because the problem has been there for a very long time.
Mhm.
I think if you divide the problem in various stages, the first immediate, there are long term solutions. What
Mhm.
is the immediate solution? The immediate solution is to have people, to have institutions, to have bodies, to have organizations that ensure the right fitment between the student and the educational institution.
Mhm.
This is the basic thing that we owe to our country. This is the basic thing we owe to the future generations, that we help them, we rise above this selling of a seat and selling of a college.
Right.
Okay, if we ensure that a student finds the right fitment, I think we will in any case make money.
Mhm.
We will in any case make money. Yes, but that will take a lot more effort.
Right.
We don't have those institutions who are willing to make that effort. So I think the first and foremost, the basic thing that will change the fortunes of this country and the students and make and deliver better students for this country is if people like you and the Pine and this whole concept, this needs to be replicated. We should no longer, we should stop this business of selling seats and
Right.
selling institutions. We no longer should act as salespeople of education. We should be the facilitators of finding the right fitment for a student. Every student is different.
Mhm.
Every student may in Indian context it becomes complicated because every student may have a liking,
Mhm.
but that may not give him enough to put food on the table and take care of his parents.
Right.
You see, this is a fundamental fact that is hitting you in the face.
Mhm.
Don't shy away from that. That is our culture. We are not like Westerners where we attain 16 and then we abandon our parents because somebody else, the state looks after our parents. Here, nobody looks after our parents.
Mhm.
It is our responsibility and we should be proud of that. If we accept that, then we must know how to differentiate.
Mhm.
In the long, maybe it can become, the situation may change that your passions may become paying for you also.
Mhm.
As long as it does not happen, it is, I think, our responsibility to ensure that our students find the right education, right college, right environment,
Mhm.
which may not be something that they like, but they will know once they
Mhm.
attain that education, they'll come back and thank you.
Perfect, sir. Thank you so much for this. Just just because you mentioned passion and career, uh, when we talk about cars, and if we want the best mileage from a car, the engine, the pistons have to go in sync, and there has to be a rhythm that has to be maintained. I personally feel that passion is that rhythm that pushes people to maintain that balance in their work and give 100% or more than 100%, or actually reach their true potential. So when we say that every passion is not cannot be translated into career, can we talk about how can we find passion in the career that we have chosen?
Simple. I'll go back to your favorite film, Three Idiots.
हाँ जी sir.
When you see, what happens is that when you say I'm passionate about cinema, everybody actually means I want to be an actor.
Mm-hmm.
So there is, passion is very clear. And it all looks like, you also know that Three Idiots was a very successful film, and Three
Mm-hmm.
Idiots is just one product. Indian film industry is by far very successful.
Right.
It's a $1 trillion. If our economy will take some time, Indian film industry is already a
Mm-hmm.
very successful enterprise. So when somebody says I want to be an actor, I mean, you not everybody can be an Amitabh Bachchan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can be an Amir Khan. These are people who are born, but they inspire thousands and thousands and millions every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't want to be like Amitabh Bachchan?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if you ask me, even I want to be an Amitabh Bachchan.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to be a Salman Khan. Do I not want to be like them? Can I become? No. But if I believe. But is film industry not a good career? It is. So what next? If I know I may want to become an Amita, but I can't, what else can I do? Can I become a good director?
Mhm.
Slowly we have seen today Indians have started this intellectually approaching cinema, that this film must be good because this is made by a certain director,
Right.
right? This film must be good because it comes with a name of, for example, a Yash Raj film,
Mhm.
right? So earlier it was not the case.
Mhm.
30 years back, whole of cinema meant an actor or an actress,
Mhm.
not even a director.
Right.
So in 30 years, we have progressed. So today, a cinema is also about a good director. A cinema is about a good production house. A cinema is also about good music.
Mhm.
A cinema is also now become like good musician, good
Mhm.
singer, good
Mhm.
editor. A cinema is also about animation. A good cinema is also about graphics. It is
Right.
about so much of technology. It is about distribution. From 40 years back, where cinema meant an actor
Mhm.
and an actress going around the trees and producing babies,
Mhm.
it has come a long way to becoming an industry and an enterprise that is employing millions of people today
Mhm.
in India. And not just providing millions, it is an important thought leader today in the whole world. You
Mhm.
see, cinema is the biggest brand ambassador of a country. You and I perhaps may not know about Manhattan
Mhm.
because we may not have been to Manhattan, but we know about Manhattan because of the movies.
Mhm.
So, what is the biggest ambassador of America? It is the movies.
Hollywood, yes.
It is Hollywood. Hollywood tells us that their Navy SEALs are so great, that their culture is so great, that their democracy, their politics is so great, everything that America does is so great. It is their films. Likewise, it is the Indian films that tell the whole world that we have a rich culture, that in India people can sing also without actually singing. People can dance also while they are singing, which is highly impractical. But
Mhm.
we are known, our cinema has pushed the boundaries of our culture like nothing else. So find a passion, but who is there to teach them?
Mhm.
That to be a part of this global billion-dollar enterprise, it is not just about being an actor.
Right. So, sir, I mean, talking about movies, there is a lot that we can talk about, and we know that Hollywood has always been a kind of soft power emulator for the country, and we can talk endlessly about movies, and I'm sure that even 10 hours on a podcast will not be enough. But coming back to the main question that I was asking is that how to find passion in the career that we have chosen. So as you mentioned, you wanted to be a cricketer. Your passion was being a cricketer, but then you chose a different career. How did you find, or how did you find passion in that particular career, which make you reach here?
By creating Indian Cricket League. See, I've not
So,
played cricket in 32 years,
mhm,
but the cricket has always remained. So
mhm,
I figured that, how could I use cricket as a business opportunity?
mhm,
And when the opportunity was right, and we thought of earlier, it was known as Zee India Squad. That's a different story altogether, and
mhm,
how it transformed from Zee India Squad to Indian Cricket League, and that whole. So it became India's first. It became India's first 2020 cricket format,
mhm.
much earlier than IPL and the likes of
Right,
IPL
right.
came. So once you see, you can't get stuck. There is always a way.
Mhm.
There is always a way, and I believe that a step in time will get you to a right opportunity.
Right.
And it was not a part of, who would have thought that 2020 cricket format could come out of a broadcasting company.
True.
Nobody would
True.
have ever thought,
Mhm,
and but it happened. So it is very important to stay truthful to two things. One, differentiate between career passions. A good career will give you an opportunity
mhm,
to convert a passion also into mainstream.
mhm,
If I was good at painting, perhaps so many times in life when I would have had a comfortable phase, I could have done a painting, and perhaps it would have sold much better than I would have actually sold if I was just a painter.
mhm,
So one thing complements the other. So a steady professional career will and is most likely to give you an opportunity to rediscover your passion
mhm,
and make much more out of it. I
mhm,
never thought I could write. I
mhm.
have today 6 global bestsellers. I
Yes, sir.
can't, I mean, I haven't had the patience of sitting through an exam more than the half time.
Mhm,
This is a matter of fact.
mhm,
All the exams that I've written in my whole life, I have stopped at the half time because I have run out of patience. But
Mhm.
I've written long form content because I believed then there was a time, and I needed to develop that patience. I developed that patience, which I otherwise would not have been able to.
Mhm.
So have a steady career. It will give you an opportunity to put your passion also, bring
Mhm.
that passion also forward. Maybe you will be able to do much more if you have a steady career with your passion.
Wonderful answer, sir. And this makes me actually think that uh, now, based on what you have just told me, two things which I feel are the most important are grit and creativity. Like, you have to be persistent and you have to be creative. Like you mentioned, I started ICL. Okay. And it was a creative way because no one was doing this. There was a wall that we cannot go beyond this. Just as I mentioned that we have very limited streams after 10th, and you created a fourth stream, that this is also possible, and that's when people started thinking. This brings us to almost the end of the podcast. So before we go to the last leg, that is the rapid fire questions, uh, what would be your message for the students who are watching this podcast?
Learning never stops. Learning never stops. The day you stop learning, the day, be very mindful of the day and time
Mhm.
that you wake up one day and you realize that you know it all. The day the day that feeling comes
Mhm.
is the day for you with the red flag
Right.
that something is wrong. You need to innovate. Never close your minds.
Mhm.
It's not a philosophical thought. You see, 10 years back, we would say that India changes every 5 years.
Right.
Corona has taught us that world can change in a
Instantly.
year.
Right. Mhm.
Who knows what is there in the future?
Right.
If anything, then what we have to accept that change is inevitable.
Mhm.
Whether it is the chair that you sit on, whether it is the portfolio that you have, whether it is the designation that you have,
Mhm.
everything is as permanent as it is temporary.
Mhm.
It is, everything is in transition. So always be ready that there will be somebody who will know more than you.
Mhm.
There will be somebody who will be wiser than you. It can even be your junior.
Mhm.
Even an intern can teach a 30-year-old guy.
Right.
There is no such thing called experience means everything. We are
Mhm.
past that age now.
Mhm.
So every day wake up and find that, accept that there are things that you may not know, and accept that there could be better ways of doing that. Be
Mhm.
open to listening. Be open to ideas. I see hundreds of people every day who keep on pushing their ideas on others, who keep
Mhm.
on pushing their ideologies and their strategies. And I know of people who have this, you know seniors who say in the meeting, I don't, teach me this and I know it all.
Mhm.
And 2 years down the line, they're nowhere.
Right.
On my LinkedIn profile is always full of messages from people who otherwise have a very swanky profile asking help.
Mhm.
So we are a tribe which is shameful, which is shamefully ignorant of accepting. We must be
Right.
open to accepting that we don't know. Always learn more. Be open to learning. Be open to discourse and pick up things along the way. That will
Mhm.
give you. That is for sure a key to long term success, because everything else is temporary.
Mhm.
One thing that has kept me, I say today, I'm a relic going by the way world changes today. Most of my seniors don't exist anywhere. People who started careers with me, they nobody knows what happened to them. Most of my juniors have faded away. Why am I still alone here with
Mhm.
you? It is because I made that effort of staying relevant.
Right.
Today I may be working in real estate. I've made nobody it is nobody's business to know how hard you're working. It is only your business to know how hard you work, because you need this job.
Mhm.
I developed a passion for writing, and I writing was only a means of addressing a social need.
Mhm.
I felt while I can, when you retire, nobody takes you seriously.
Mhm.
Then it is just a rant of an aged man.
Right.
Okay, so when you are relevant, the chances of people accepting and learning from you
Increases.
is far higher.
Right.
Okay, so there was an instance, for example, that I believe that people should know, but then you have a full time job.
Mhm.
What do you do after
Mhm.
working for 12 hours? Your back aches. All you want to
Mhm.
do is just lie down.
Mhm.
Okay, but for 6 months I've worked 12 hours in the office.
Mm-hmm.
I've slept hardly for 2 hours for 6 months, but I wrote that.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares how fast you did that. Nobody cares a damn how hard you work. People only ultimately see the effort and they
Mm-hmm.
make a judgment. So if you are passionate about something, find it, find your time. Don't tell me there is no time. There is
Mm-hmm.
always time for something that is important to you.
So we start the rapid fire round whenever you are ready, sir.
I am ready.
So first question: one skill that every young professional should master, according to you.
Analytics.
Biggest career lesson that you have learned.
Always accept that you don't know, and there could be somebody who knows better than you.
Most valuable career advice you have received ever.
Never ever received a good career advice. In fact, I'm
Let's.
the only person who has never listened to any advice.
Okay, sir. A book that influenced your journey.
I'm a very bad reader. The only book that I've ever read is Richard Bach's Jonathan Siegel. I think that's the only book that I've actually read and been very happy that I read that. Apart from the other epics like Ramayana, Mahabharata, and
Okay. And one industry trend to watch closely.
that anything can happen anytime.
So watch closely to wherever you are going. Anything can
Yes,
happen
yes.
anytime.
Always keep, I think industry trends, I mean, not your rapid fire, but I think broadcasting world, media and entertainment, artificial intelligence, and these are very important discourses that will set the future of this
Mhm.
country. Mining is very important. That's where, most of it lies, and we still haven't explored that.
Perfect. So if you have over 30 years of experience, so if you get an opportunity to go back 30 years and suggest something or advise yourself, what would be that advice?
Uh, I really don't know. I really don't know because I one the biggest I think the shortfall of my life is that I've never had any godfather.
Mhm.
There was never anybody who was able to inspire me. Whatever happened with me happened because I felt that among so many mistakes that I made, so there was always a route that I felt perhaps I should take, and I followed my heart.
Mhm.
Sometimes I've been right, sometimes I've been wrong. Most of the times I've been right
Mhm.
because I'm driven by excellence. As long as my mind is very clear that I will have a very restless night
Mhm.
if I have not tried my best. And when I say I have not tried my best, everybody tries his best.
Right.
My grandmother would always say that everybody has intelligence, but real intelligence is to know what to do when the time is right,
Right.
not give anybody time and space. Anybody can take a decision. So it's very important also to be driven by something. I'm driven by excellence.
Mhm.
So I'm very happy that whatever I've done in life have been excellent examples. I cannot go back in time and say if I were to do this again and I would do it in a better way. No.
Mhm.
So if I'm driven by excellence and I will do everything to deliver an excellent product.
Perfect, sir. Thank you so much. Next question is, what is a key quality that you look for in a young talent?
Temperament, ability to learn.
Your favorite way to recharge?
My family.
Okay. Your proudest career moment ever?
Possibly hasn't come in as yet, but there's so many. As I said, I don't attach much value to them. I still feel that there is something that I must do. Some
Mhm.
time back, maybe 30 years back, I would have felt that maybe an Amitabh Bachchan releasing my book would have been a career-defining move. But today, I mean, we're past that.
Mhm. And a new goal that you're excited about?
My first film.
Okay, so thank you so much for your time. And anything else that you would like to discuss?
Very important from the student's point of view is very important not to get carried away by what you see around them.
Mhm.
What works for some other student works for that student.
Right.
Don't take that. It's your life, it is your career, it is your dream, it is your family at stake.
Mhm.
Do not paint your life with somebody else's brush
Mhm.
using somebody else's colors. It's your life, it has to be your colors, it has to be your brush. Do
Mhm.
what is right for you. Ultimately, you can lie to the whole world, you can't lie to yourself. Be truthful that you know what you can do,
Mhm.
not because somebody else was successful somewhere else. No.
Mhm. Thank you so much, sir. And even though I said this was the last question, uh, this question is about you and something that I have observed since I know you. I know you for almost like 6 years now, and this is something I have observed and something I would like to bring for everyone. Something I have also learned from Ashish sir, and even after working with him, I learned a lot. And one of the learnings was that even though we are divided in sectors like education, entertainment, health, marketing is a different sector, sales is a different sector. I feel that regardless of which sector you come from or which sector you're going to, at the end of the day, if we are meeting the needs of a salesman, it doesn't matter what product we are selling. If we are understanding the consumer behavior, if we are able to put the right ethos, pathos, and logos in the marketing and in the advertising, it doesn't matter what product we are marketing. And Sir Ashish sir is a living embodiment of this concept. So, sir, I would be more than happy, and I'm very happy that you said yes for this podcast. And thank you so much for your valuable time. And guys, if you really like this podcast, I would like to call Ashish sir again. So please give me your feedback, and because that podcast is going to be a very long one, and we cannot sum up everything in just 2 hours of time. Thank you so
Thank
much, sir.
thank you.